Good morning everyone. My name is Mary Gagen and I'm one of the scientists who works in the S4 programme. Most of you are used to meeting our outreach tutors, Ali, Christy, Rachel and Alex. But we do have other scientists in the programme as well, and I'm one of them. And I'm a scientist who works on trees. So I'm very lucky in that I'm able to take a walk every day at the moment to one of the beautiful patches of woodland around Mumbles, Langland and Caswell. And what I'm going to do today is walk up into a patch of beech forest to talk to you a bit about beech trees, because they're one of the most amazing trees there are. They're a real favourite of mine, partly because they grow in these beautiful cathedral canopies and because they have a really interesting symbiotic relationship with the fungi that live in the soil. Any of you studying any of the natural sciences, so biology, geography, environmental science, one of the concepts that you'll be looking at are the way that organisms within ecosystems interact with each other. There are different relationships, and they are very often relationships between different kingdoms. So between the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom, or in the case of the beech trees we'll talk about in a minute, between the plant kingdom and the fungus kingdom, fungi. These relationships are really, really important, and they're a really key feature of our natural environment, interdependence between organisms. And there's some really interesting concepts that you can look at. You can look at predator-prey relationships, you can look at decomposers in our environment, you can look at insects who act as pest control in our environment to keep parasites down. So what we're going to do right now is head up into our beautiful beech woodland to learn more about beech trees. So the first thing that you notice when you come into a beech forest is what's on the floor. These are beech nuts from last year, and the capsules that the seed is encased in remain on the floor for quite a long time. They're quite tough and it takes a while for them to break down, but they eventually do, and they return the materials back to the soil. But one of the things you tend to see in beech forest are these sorts of carpets of the beech nut capsules. The woodland that we're in right now is also absolutely full at this time of year with wild garlic. Wild garlic is one of the key indicator species for ancient woodland in the UK, and it's a fascinating plant. It's also known as walking garlic because one of the reasons that it's a great indicator of an ancient woodland is because it spreads really, really slowly. As you can see, if I look at these flowers here, the seeds are encased in the top. If we look at some of the buds that are closed there, the seeds of the wild garlic are encased in here, and they can only spread as far as that seed capsule falls over. So wild garlic gets called walking garlic because the seeds are only able to spread that sort of 3 or 4 inches. So it spreads very, very slowly along the forest floor. So when we come into a woodland like this, that in the springtime is absolutely carpeted with wild garlic and with bluebells, we've got some indicators of ancient woodland there that tell us this is a really important ecosystem that supports some of the rarest biodiversity in our country. So one of my favourite things about beech trees is that they exhibit something called crown shyness, canopy shyness. And that basically are these very light patches where you can see the sky a little bit better through here, where the canopies of adjacent trees are making sure they don't get in each other's way. And you can see these lines where the canopies make sure that they don't touch, they don't overlap. So this is a way that beech trees make sure they're not competing with their neighbours for resources. You can just see at the very top, these trees are starting to show the first flush of leaves in the springtime. And as the canopy fills in with leaves over the summer, you'll start to lose this crown shyness a bit, and those lines between the canopies will get a bit more indistinct. But in the winter and the spring, they're really obvious and they're really fascinating. So one of the other things that I absolutely love about beech trees are their incredible relationship with what are called mycorrhizal networks, so the fungal networks that wrap around the roots of the beech trees. So you can see this trunk behind me. This beech tree's roots that are just above the soil here will, and have bark on them and have kind of solidified to help slightly buttress the outside of the big trunk. These will continue underground for a long, long way into kind of mats of roots, and each one will have fungus wrapped around the outside of the root. The relationship between beech trees and many trees actually and their root mycorrhizae is a particular type of symbiotic relationship called mutualism, where both the tree and the organism, the fungus in this case, benefit from the relationship. So one of the amazing things going on in this tree trunk behind me and in the roots going under the ground is that this beech tree will be being supplied with nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen that are gathered from the soil by the fungus using enzymes that the tree doesn't possess, and then supplied into the tree system. And the relationship between mycorrhizae and trees is an absolutely fascinating one. So you can read a bit more about symbiosis and mutualism to learn more about that relationship.